I will. We're waiting for him to get everything up.
Yeah, that's, I did not know Kathy. So we could, I think we need to have a discussion if we have to turn our direction. Because we don't really know where we can go. You can, under. I guess, well, yeah, is that right? You can see it from the other side.
Yeah, well, we could do
It could be 15,
Okay.
either one.
Okay.
We're waiting for this to be up.
Yeah. I went and checked. I guess it takes him about 5 minutes to get it up and going. Chris.
Stop it. I'm sure it does. Bill.
She's gonna speak. I'm trying to get on the document.
Oh, I did.
You want to see this?
I don't want to get my fingers sticky fingers on it. Bill. Much Is Chris gonna let us know when he's ready?
I'm going to ask.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes. He's ready.
Okay, hold on. Whatever you want to do.
Well, I thought
Yeah, we got one. Sure, yeah. Okay, we are going to call this meeting to order at 6:41 PM. Thank you all for bearing with us a little bit while we got our technology up and going. We'd like to welcome everyone. And at this time, if you all would please stand for a moment of silence and the pledge of allegiance. You have a pledge?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I like it. It's a room full of educators. Nice and loud.
All right. Item number 1 is review of the agenda. Anybody has any additions, subtractions?
I'd like to remove item 13 from the agenda after discussing this with Mr. Thomas today. Everything seems to be in order, and I think it's in need to discuss that.
You talked to all the other board members?
I had not, because I had a conversation with Mr. Stump this afternoon. Mr. Tobby brought it to my attention. I spoke with Mr. Stump and relayed that to Mr. Tobby, but if not, that was late this afternoon,
Right.
so I haven't had a chance to sit in detail, but I can.
Okay. Will that be okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Mr.
I'm
Thomas,
fine
the
with that.
update?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, strike number 13.
Mhm.
And I'd like to see if we could add discussion of doing maybe another survey through Kathy Fields, since we didn't have a great turnout. That we could put maybe even on Facebook, that we could get more input from our community and people in the district. Would you all?
Specifically for the superintendent.
Mm-hmm. 15A.
Discussion of
Survey.
another survey, or,
Mhm.
yes.
The same one, just grade.
Well, no, because I think we're talking about changing it a little bit too, right, Sherry?
Adding
Yeah.
a few
Maybe
different questions on
basing it
there.
around more of Clark County,
Okay.
additional survey. Does that sound better?
Mm-hmm. I noticed 16 was acknowledge, district updates. Is that just acknowledging them, or do we need to hear about them? Is that,
Okay, we can move it up if you would rather.
do we have anything to say?
Just
We do? Okay.
Do you want to move that up?
I think so.
Oh, did we not? So we didn't get an update on
No, I
Right.
didn't see an email.
it? Okay,
Mm-mm.
so we'll move it up to
Just under I think under
Yeah.
internal
board
board
business.
business.
Move it up,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Okay. Anything else?
I'm good.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda with additions and subtractions as added.
Motion by Mr. Tobin,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, approval of minutes for May 17th, 2021, regular meeting, May 24th, 2021, tentative budget meeting, and June 14th, special meeting. Everybody was at those meetings, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion for those minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for the 17th, the 24th, and the 4th, the special meeting.
14th.
14th, yes, excuse me, 14th.
Motion by Ms. Considine,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Tobin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, students and staff recognition. Did you have, okay. We do have a couple. We will start with Dr. Jim Evans. Is he still in here? Oh, there you are.
In the
I
back.
lost you, you were here.
Yeah, I was here in the back. I'll just take a minute of your time. Again, my name is Jim Evans, and I'm with Kentucky Education Development Corporation. I'm here just to recognize Paul for his hard work and dedication as superintendent. I've had the honor and privilege of working with him as my time as superintendent in Lee County for 11 years. He was serving here. So, and I can do nothing but brag on him and commend him for his work. So I do appreciate all he's done for the district and the kids in Kentucky, and what he will continue to do as he moves forward with next steps in his life. So you come up, I'll present this little token from KDC. Appreciate that. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, sir.
On all those nights, I'll have a blanket now to stay warm, so since I don't have these warm board meetings to keep me all warm and fuzzy all the time, now I've got a blanket.
Okay. Here I come, Paul, here I come. Where to begin, and I guess we might as well go back to 8 years. I was a brand new board member that was placed on the superintendent search committee. You were the director of operations. I had never met Paul Christie and really had never even heard the name, but that was quick to change. Soon the phone call started about this Paul Christie guy and how the board should really consider him. I heard it one time after another. I remember thinking, I have no idea who this guy is, but he has some major community support. Eventually interviews came, and I still remember when it was decided that you were the one that had been chosen to be the next superintendent. You were brought back in for the contract negotiations. When your salary was brought up, you looked at us and said, I don't really care about the pay. Just pay me whatever. I just really want this job. I think we all laughed at you and said, yeah, okay, whatever. And you said, no, I'm serious. I said, okay. Well, you were true to your words. In 8 years, I do not ever remember a time where you came in and asked for money. As a matter of fact, it was the opposite. You would refuse it, saying you would not take a dime more for the job unless your staff or knowing that the students were taken care of. In 8 years, you've led us through some major controversial issues, like closing schools. You led us through redistricting. You overseen the building and completion of the first ever athletic complex in Clark County. We now have SROs in every building to protect our students and staff. Under your leadership, we have had schools that went from needs improvement to a distinguished school within a year. The high school was distinguished for 2 years in a row. We have been a distinguished district. We have been publicized in 17 national magazines for energy performance and classroom comfort. And I know that your beautiful wife stood before us and said that she would take you back. So before we give you back.
That was a month ago.
Yeah. I have a few requests from Miss Sandra as she takes you back. About once every other week or so, I need her to call you and say, what the heck, Paul? Or just throw in some dang it, Pauls. If she happens to be awake around midnight, come up with a random complaint just to make you wake up and fuss at him. As far as having a stubborn, complicated employee, I think Molly's got that one covered for you. And I'm counting on her to keep you under control. I'm counting on, and one final thing, and this one's Cash's request. You must now participate in snow dances. Because he hasn't been very successful over the last few years, so he says he's going to need your assistance. And he will be calling you every time that it's called for snow, and you all will dance together. In all seriousness, we would like to thank you for 16 years in Clark County. Thank you for 8 years as superintendent. Thank you for leading us through a global pandemic. Whether people agree or disagree, one thing I think we all can agree on is that you did what you felt was right for every child. I don't know that I can ever say that I've seen a superintendent that can walk into a building and know almost every child's name. That is something to be said. When you walk out into the community, everybody seems to say, hey Paul, hi Paul. Even the kids, it's not Mr. Christie, it's hey Paul. So we wish you well in your next adventure. We hope Sandra doesn't work you too hard, but hard enough to keep you busy. And for that, we would like to present you with this plaque and wish you well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Don't you cry.
I said all I was going to say is 30 years ago I came in with Kara, and 30 years later, 31 years later, I'm going out with COVID. So I'm on good stretch in this. I've enjoyed it. Thank you all.
Okay. Oh, what is this? Now, public comments, Arlene? None? Okay. Item number 4, Robert Campbell, Congressional Academy Inspire Grant. Can't even talk now. Dustin Howard. Do you?
I am not Dustin
You
Howard.
do not look like Dustin Howard, but you know.
He tried to look like me for a few months, but he just couldn't handle it.
Okay. I was thinking, wow, Dustin Mr. Chucky, you stand
A little bit, he's a little shorter right now.
Okay.
I'm Tony Mann, this is Grace Hannon, we're both 8th grade social studies teachers at Robert Campbell, and for the last 5 years, we've been part of a grant through the KEDC called Heart and Aspire, currently in Aspire. As you all know, teachers are required to have 24 hours of professional development every year. Most professional development in my 24 years in this district has revolved around best practices. And KEDC reached out to teachers around the state and said, what kind of PD do you all need? And we said, we need content. I had not had a new social studies class since I graduated from college 25 years ago. So they put together these grants, wrote them and got them, and for the last 5 years, a little bit over 5, we have been doing monthly, we give up a Saturday every month and go over to KEDC offices and sit with college professors, world-renowned authors like Carol Birkin, who wrote the Bill of Rights, the epitome book about the Bill of Rights. We have had a lot of different people that we've talked to, and then every summer we spend a week at the KEDC offices doing an intensive study of American history. Matter of fact, this year started today, and it was awesome. Mr. Evans, we talked to him today, and so we were so happy he could be here for us. Right now there are 3 RDC teachers, plus 2 more will be coming on next year. We've had in-person training, of course, the last year. We've had a lot of online trainings, which has been fun. It actually helped. They gave us a lot of professional development on how best to, it's not always been all content, especially during COVID. They gave us a lot of professional developments on how best to serve our students going through COVID, doing virtual, meeting their needs. We had trainings on trauma-informed care, things like that. It's been a really fantastic program run by Kay Hendrick. So anyway, they've also given us with the new standards. We've gotten a lot of training on the new standards, and especially moving forward with inquiry-based training. I spent a Saturday online with Ryan New out of Jefferson County, who's one of the leaders, which tied right in line with the stuff we've been doing with Dr. Swan over the last year. Let's see here. We've also been able to experience immersive trips to different places of important historical, like Washington, D.C., Colonial Williamsburg, Philadelphia, Gettysburg, Valley Forge. Well, we thought next year we're going back to New York, but the year after that, for the last year of Aspire, we are going to get to take a civil rights tour. Well, what we understand is the preliminary planning is from Montgomery to Birmingham all the way to Memphis, and look at the civil rights tour of the South. I've been teaching social studies for 24 years, and I thought I knew a lot about American history, but until you walk the battlefield at Gettysburg and you stand on Little Round Top, you don't really understand. It makes you a better teacher to do that. It makes you a better teacher to stand in the Independence Hall and stand in the room where they signed the Declaration of Independence. That makes you a better teacher. So this opportunity has been great for us as teachers, but one of the biggest opportunities it has been for the students. Not only has it helped us enhance our knowledge of American history and give that to the students through our instruction, best practices and content, we've been able to provide a couple hundred students with an opportunity that Grace is going to talk about through our Congressional Academy.
So this is an optional part of our grant, and it is a 1 week long, basically like a summer school. We try to make it more fun, more like a summer camp. They give us the topic and then just kind of let us run free with it. So we've done this 3 years in a row. We even did it through COVID last year. We had about 60 students last year. We had about 47 students partake this year. It's about 40 hours worth of work for students. They did some of it using their Chromebooks, but the vast majority of it was with us. Some of the things that we've done this year for the judicial branch, we went to the Muhammad Ali Center. We talked about his Supreme Court case. We have had Judge Neal and the Judge Executive in the past come as well. This year we have had members of the Kentucky Historical Society come speak with students. We also include civic engagement as a part of it, and we had 21 different leaders from the community come and speak about how they're involved in, with our students, which I think was probably one of the most rewarding things that we've done this week, or that week. On top of all of the work that the students do, the students also get paid about $200 for everything that they've done. So especially for an 8th grader, I mean, that's a lot of money. A lot of them were really excited. I had some kids tell me, I've never had this much money for myself. So very, very exciting. It's been a great opportunity for our community to come connect with our kids, and KEDC has provided all the funds to make that happen. In the future, we would love to have more teachers join us. Mr. Evans mentioned that there's other social studies grants coming up, especially with the new standards and inquiry. I think the more teachers that this county can get involved in that, the better. They've got grants that are for a more elementary, intermediate-based one called Charge, and then this Aspire grant that we're a part of. So we just wanted to talk to you about some of the great things that have been going on in North County. So thank you for your time.
That's awesome.
And the coolest person we had come speak to him last week was Mary Beth Tinker from the landmark Supreme Court case Tinker versus Des Moines. The 2 years, like this year and the year before last, we did a Zoom meeting with Mary Beth Tinker where she talked to the kids about finding what you're passionate about and pursuing that and speaking out, because their case was about, do students have free speech in schools? And it was a really amazing opportunity to hear her and talk to her. And kids got to literally talk to her. They got to get up and ask her questions and interact, and it was amazing.
So is your grant just year by year, or does it take you through several years?
This is a 5-year-long grant. We have to apply every year. He and I have been involved the entire time, and we've got 2 years left on this one, and then they've got more coming. And like I said, there's this, there's the one for the elementary and intermediate teachers as well. That's all social studies based. And for this academy, like I said, they just kind of give us the topic. We give out these ideas, and we get some feedback back on that. But they really let us be creative and run with whatever we think our kids need.
We just found out today we got accepted for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Great news. That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Item number 5, consider approval of first reading policy update.
You all have copies. You all have copies of the policies. Our recommendation, I've met with, we've gone through all the policies as recommended by ASBA, and we have no changes to make to those. We're willing to accept those as written, all policies. Everybody, those were divided up in each department throughout the district here, and the directors looked at the policies pertaining to their area, and everybody's fine with the way they're worded in KSBA. So I recommend approval as written for the first reading.
Any questions, comments?
Been going through them.
Policies take 2 readings.
Yes.
This is first reading. Your procedures that you have coming up next, you can pass those on 1 reading.
Is there any policy that you worry that will have any,
There's lots of policies I worry about.
but I mean changes,
Nothing,
policy
no,
changes?
nothing.
Okay,
Everybody seems okay with any changes to it.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve first reading of policy update as written on item 5.
Motion by Mr. Tobey,
A second.
second by Ms. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Alright. Item number 6, consider review and approval of procedure update.
Same thing, we've reviewed, all departments have reviewed all the procedures and have no changes recommended for those. And those would be approved upon your approval tonight as on first reading on them. That's all that's required.
Any questions, comments, concerns? For item number 6?
I really don't see any changes except formatted issues that's been corrected.
except for that first one on open records.
Mhm.
That's some law changes, there was some
The
changes,
homeless.
some laws
Mhm.
that dictate those.
The rest of it's just formatted. I'll make a motion to approve item 6 as written.
Motion by Mr. Tolby.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hendricks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7, consider approval to purchase a motor bass fishing boat. Mr. Christie and Billy, wherever he's at.
I have Coach Dameron here too, also, to help answer any questions. First off, I've given this opportunity, I'd first like to commend the work that Billy does with this group. The bass fishing team now exceeds 30. That's more than your JV and varsity basketball teams do. That he's working with. It's a very low-paying coaching job. Your bowling coach makes as much as your bass team does. We just hired a wrestling coach, and we don't even have a wrestling team, and the wrestling coach makes twice as much. This season goes year-long. They fish 12 months a year. And if it were not for him and the support of the parents, we wouldn't have that. We wouldn't have this as a sport here. We wouldn't have it as an activity for kids. This, unlike, and I appreciate, I'm an old coach, I appreciate sports. I really do. But for most kids, high school, unless you're really lucky and really good, high school is the end of the sport for you. This is not the case with fishing. This is a lifelong journey that some of these kids have. They'll be teaching their own kids to fish before long, sooner than parents want to think that might happen. I'd also like to commend them on the work that they do with their students in our district, their special needs students. Twice a year, they take them to the fishing game club, take them fishing. That they do that on their own. They work with so many civic organizations to raise money to help other things, help with other groups. Everything that they've done so far has been pretty much done on their own and with the support of the parents, the parents of the kids on the team. They've had bake sales, they do cooks, they do bingo, they've had trade shows, they've done everything in the world to generate money, and they've been pretty much self-sufficient over all this time. What they're asking for tonight, or what we're asking for tonight, is probably the equivalent of the helmet reconditioning and shoulder pad reconditioning 1 year for football. And this is something that, if this is approved tonight, will give some kids an opportunity for a long time, because they'll take care of this. With that, I'll open it up to any other questions that you all might have. I'll ask Billy if he wants to take up here. You feel free to ask him questions too. I also want to mention, even in town, out in the industrial park, a lot of the industries, when they have their family days, they invite our bass fishing team to come to those, because they take their kids fishing that day while they're having their family days. Our kids take their kids fishing. I saw them, what was it, last year? No, it's been more than that, a year or two ago, when they did that. I forgot what the exact terminology was. It was bass for kids at Christmas. And they came up short. These kids donated their own money.
Just ask a question, something I think you might have asked Mr. Christie. How many scholarships did your team provide for the kids?
We have 4 on college scholarships. We have 4 after this year. We have 2 seniors, 1 at Georgetown. Over the past 3 years, we've had 3 others that's turned down scholarships, which went to the military.
Oh,
In 7 years, we've had 9 scholarship offers. This year, I look for that to go up with the scholarships, something that different in bass fishing than baseball, football, basketball. Every time we go to a tournament, we try to fish something that there's actually scholarship money. There's a tournament next week, which we can't go to through dead period through KHSAA. There's $6.5 million worth of scholarships there. 3 years ago, we come in second as juniors or sophomores, but boys actually turned it down. I just had a phone call with the here. We have 2 seniors who was offered a scholarship to Bethel University today. The way they placed at the state championship a week ago. And then something, you guys probably don't know, we run a tournament series of our own. I've been on the phone with Kentucky Christian University today. They are in the process of getting the paperwork. We're going to offer an $80,000 scholarship to each of our 4 tournaments to the first place winner. Granted that, might not be a kid from Clark County, but that's the opportunity of, there's 200 kids that's going to have a chance to get the majority of their college paid for. When I come to Mr. Christie and ask him to help me try to get a boat, get something going, we've got 2 boats that are both 20 years old. This is not like football, baseball. You've got to have a parent with a boat or an uncle or somebody volunteer. About 6 different times this year, I've left kids sitting on the lake because we've had boat issues. If you guys follow our Facebook page, I sent Mr. Christie a picture at 4:30 in the morning with the rollback coming to get one of our boats where we actually broke down on the side of the river. Fishing for GRC is fun. Everybody goes, they participate, they have a lot of fun. And that's, with this other boat, we can actually put more kids on the water, where they actually get to participate, because not everybody's a football player, a basketball player, or baseball. They're not the best. It's, 9 to 11 kids get a play. Fishing, if we've got a boat, we can put them on the water and they actually enjoy that.
Well, I want to commend your work personally. I mean, I think that's fantastic. The scholarships that's available now for kids, I mean, it's just another avenue for kids to go
They'll
to
still be in
college.
college if they offer fishing scholarships. That's still be
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's still.
I checked, I got 2 years eligibility. And that's one of the things with college and with high school fishing. We probably do as much, if not more, than anybody in the state. As a coach, and you take a kid to Alabama or Wisconsin or Florida, and you pull into a rest area or a gas station, the kid will say, I've never been here, I've never seen anything like this before. That kind of makes you think about it, because, my son, when I go fishing, I take him with me. But I've got somebody else as a kid, and they go to Florida, and they say, let's just spend a day riding around taking pictures. We've never seen anything. It kind of changes the way you look at it. Not only they're getting to fish and make memories and acquaintances, but they're getting to see stuff that they wouldn't normally get to see. And the same thing in college, the kids that's going to college, they're going to get to travel. They're getting a free education, they're getting to travel the country to go fish and see things that me and Mr. Christie would love to do. I think that opens up a lot of kids' eyes, a lot of parents' eyes. And it opens up a lot of opportunities. We've got kids that's working this year that's on the fishing team from people that they've met at fishing tournaments, whether it's somebody in the industry or somebody in a construction company. So a lot of lasting impressions there.
I don't see the amount that you're requesting on here.
For what Mr. Christie and I talked about, we don't want to talk the line boat. I mean, bass boats, if anybody knows anything about them, are as much as you want to spend. We would actually like to have something in the $30,000 to $35,000 range that has warranty. That way, if something goes out, I'm not trying to figure out a way like one of our school boats out there, and they told me that's going to be about $9,000 to fix. Warranty usually runs 8 years on these boats, so we're looking at something that can get us, through the next 8 years. And something that's just going to kind of be a good fishing platform, stable and safe for these kids. And that's something else we do is we make all our kids take a safe motor course. So if we have boats that belong to school, like every other Thursday we go to Cave Run Lake. If the boats belong to the school, I can take a kid and say, all right, I'm going to teach you how to load the boat. I'm going to teach you how to run the boat. And my thinking with that is hopefully it sticks with them. But if I get out there and miss ridiculous with the boat captain and he gets hooked, which it happens, or he gets stung by a bee, something happens, I've got kids that know how to operate the vessel and get back in and take care of something in an emergency.
So are we replacing a boat? You have a boat with a motor that's...
What I would like to do is I would like to buy a new one, and then I would like to actually take the kids and see if we can fix the one we have. I just hate to turn around and tear the motor apart, and it's more than the boat is worth. If I take it to a shop, they charge about $175 an hour. If I can tear it down and rebuild the motor, me and some kids have done it, and I taught them actually how to work on some equipment.
So you're not looking at surplusing the boat?
No.
You're going to keep what you
we
have?
Keep it and try to get it
And
fixed
this
where
is-
we could actually have another boat on the water, actually have another set of
They do,
kids.
along with it's more than just the fishing piece. There's the mechanics of it. There's the maintenance piece to it, and all the other things, backing the boat, doing all those kinds of things. It could still be used for a lot of that, and it could be something that they could teach the mechanics, the maintenance piece, and maybe over a period of time, maybe they can repair it towards a usable vessel again, and then you got an extra one. I don't know.
Have you found a boat?
I have looked for some, yes, there's a few out there. The boating market is like anything else, it's very hard to find, they go pretty quick. We've actually, Mr. Christie and I talked with Anthony Roy, the thing was outpost, and he had a couple of boats that fit what we're looking for. That's not advertised yet, so if that's something you guys decide to do, we will actually reach out and get a little more information on these boats and see exactly what's out there. But I would think for my personal boat parts, I broke down last year in July, and I waited 4 months. I blew it up in January, and I waited another 3 months before I could get my parts. And that actually hurt because I used my boat as well, so that was more kids that didn't get to go.
Yeah, I think the amount of money that they're asking, that they're requesting, I mean, one kid, maybe a year and a half of tuition, as many kids that they put already through college and through scholarships. I mean, it's on the college, right? But, I mean, everybody knows what the tuition is at some of these colleges. It's outrageous.
Alicia?
That will come out of contingency, there's not a budget for that, so
Yeah.
it would be a contingency item, and being at the price point, you would have to bid that.
So these people that you're looking at, they're on the bid list? Do you know?
I do not know anybody in the state.
But if you take open bids from, just open it up to anybody, you don't have to have a bid
They
list.
don't have-
If you have somebody that's on the state bid list, then you don't have to advertise it, you can buy from the state bid.
When we bought the one that's broke down, I think, Alicia, we had to get 3
Yeah.
comps on post that was equal to what that was, and that, it didn't,
At that price point.
yeah, that price point, it didn't take real long to, as far as the boats, getting 3 comps or putting it out to bid, I don't think that would be an issue. I know there's plenty of dealers in the state that would want to sell them if they had them.
To me, it's a no-brainer, these kids need it.
Well, yeah,
You can do it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve not to exceed amount of $35,000 to go through the proper bidding process as needed.
Motion by Mr. Tobey, and I second that. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Enjoy your boat.
Yeah. Good fishing.
Yeah. All right, item number 8, consider approval of New Vista memorandum of agreement. I'm not like that word.
Sometimes it's a little hard.
It does, it tongue-ties me every time.
Good evening, how's everyone today?
Good.
Hopefully you all did not get exceedingly wet. This evening I come to you, I've got 3 items actually, one right behind the other. Basically, it's that time of year where we come and we speak in regards to our community supports for mental health services. So I'm asking to seek your approval for, first on item 8, is the memorandum with New Vista, formerly known as Bluegrass Comprehensive Care. This is a this would be reoccurring as far as we've had this before. So any questions that you may have?
Any changes? Was it moving?
No, sir. They're just looking to continue to provide services in relation to partnership from the community mental health supports to our school system.
Not anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, motion by Ms. Richardson. You want to review?
I'll second.
All right, second by Ms. Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, item number 9.
And-
Keep going.
Yes, and item number 9 is yet another community partner that we have, and that's Mountain Comprehensive Care. They too are seeking to seek renewal of the memorandum and provide services in partnership with our school system. Do you have any questions?
Any changes to the agreement?
No changes. It's one of those that their agreement, just like the others, are kind of open to go with the needs of the schools.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by
Is
Mr.
there-
Bowman. I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And our last one this evening is with the National Youth Advocacy Program. That sometimes we throw out the acronym of NIAP. They too are once again seeking to renew with the memorandum to provide supports to our school system for students that we serve.
Any changes?
No, ma'am. Just dates.
Just thanks. I make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Considine,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Manning.
Thank you for your support. We greatly need it.
All right, item number 11. Consider approval of CCGIS contract renewal. Paul Christie and Donald Stump, and you don't look like Donald Stump either.
Thank God. Donald is out on vacation with his mother in the western part of the country, so I'm here tonight to present to you our annual contract with CCGIS. And we utilize this service. Stephen Berry, I think, is the one that takes care of that on the city level. But we utilize this as for curriculum at the high school. We also use it for location of utilities, underground utilities when we're constructing different projects across the district. But mainly we use this program to do our bus routes. EduLog is a program that we use it's pretty imperative that we have the GIS capabilities to be able to route our school buses. So we do this every year. It is a consortium and a partnership with the city and the county, and I think it's $32,000, which has already been budgeted for this school year.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Nichols? No, but he may like to make a motion.
I make a motion to consider or to approve the contract renewal.
Motion by Ms. Considine to approve.
More
correct?
than just consider it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Tolly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Item number 12, consider approval for board members and superintendent to attend the KSBA Summer Leadership Institute, July 16th to the 17th at the Marriott Griffin Gate.
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead, you get on the board.
Well, now I've lost my train of thought. I make a motion to approve item number 12.
All right, motion by Ms. Hendrick. You want to second that one, Sherry?
Sure.
Second by Ms. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, item number 14, update and discussion of ESSER funds. And it has Ms. Richard, but that is so usually.
I'm not sure what you're wanting to discuss exactly, I never got directions, so be happy to discuss anything you want.
Just kind of an update on the budget. I mean, basically, we just want an update.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Where we
think-
are.
I think based upon some,
Yeah, so last month in the district updates, you all were provided the funding plan, and nothing has changed since then, at this point, until I've been given further direction.
so let's talk specifically about ESSER 3 and the budget line items in ESSER 3, since there's been a lot of communication from the community and to us on what those budget line items mean, if any, if they're, just placeholders, and what would be required for those funds to be expended?
So right now, essentially, all of ESSER 3 or ARP ESSER, which is the technical term from the state level, is placeholders. None of that has been committed to anything specific at this point. It has just been placeholders put in place with different ideas that as an administrative team we have talked about. Number one off the top, 20% of that must be addressed to learning loss. So 3.1 million of the 15.7 that we received has to go to learning loss. So nothing specific for learning loss has been addressed at this point. We just know 3.1 of it must be committed to that. Now what that will probably look like is obviously your staff. You're going to be hiring staff in extra positions or even maintaining the staff level that we currently have in order to help address that learning loss. Buying programs, assessment programs, curriculum, different things like that would fall within that 3.1 million. In addition to that is also based on ESSERs 1 and 2 and certain levels of criteria we had to fit to hit those landmarks of different pieces. Also what has kind of been facilitated down to now ESSER 3 is even COVID sick paid days. So that's not a direct service to kids. 85% of our ESSER 2 had to be direct services to kids. So with how that budget got facilitated and only having 15% for non-direct services, which would be paid days off sick for COVID, there wasn't enough of a balance left in that grant to address COVID paid days off. So that is really truly the only committed piece out of ESSER 3 at this point is COVID paid days sick to our employees that have been off due to COVID related incidences out of their control, out of our control, but we continue to pay them regardless. And so that has facilitated down into this grant. Also just budgeted line items is summer school for next year. Summer school this year is coming out of ESSER 2. We have a lot of staff where we maintained our staffing levels, but yet our staffing allocations really said we probably should have backed off of staffing a little bit based on enrollment numbers. We didn't do that. We kept our current level of staffing, and so that was funded out of ESSER 2. We're still anticipating that out of ESSER 3. So staffing, summer, one of the largest line items that is, and it is just a line item in the plan right now, but nothing is committed, is $9 million for a performance bond. Now what that means, and I sent you all an email kind of trying to explain that a little bit more detail, is over the last several years, our district has already spent $7 million in a performance energy bond to have energy efficient processes in our building. To finish that district-wide would take roughly $9 million. ESSER 3 was given with the intent as one of the allowable expenditures out of that grant funding for the improvement of your facilities, your air quality, your student environment learning, making that a better environment for your kids and safety. Well, that's what that performance bond would do. In the long run, one, that keeps us from selling a bond and having debt, and because we were giving a funding source that we could do that. So that's why it got put as a placeholder. Number two, in the long run, it's going to save our general fund dollars as well, and utilities and maintenance costs on these processes that we would be making more efficient energy-wise in our buildings. Now,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
I mean, we haven't had, or has there been a study done on what that savings would be?
I believe
It would generate about $350,000 a year in savings.
Okay. Which is recurring,
Yes.
which is what we
And
want.
that, and I think that's one of the reasons why they did this with the ESSER. It's federal money, and it's common sense here. If you can use somebody else's money to repair your buildings and upgrade your buildings to generate savings, you're taking restricted money that can only be used for that, or some other, it's restricted monies, and you can use it for that, and it generates money, savings, that's not restricted. Now that money can go back to the classrooms, that can go for whatever you deem necessary, so.
Right.
But it was a placeholder, and it's like she said, that's what it would take to do the remainder of the district to get it to the same level as the first two energy performance bonds that you all did. You gotta have a plan by July the 31st. You gotta have it committed. And you can change it there's nothing, this doesn't bind you, doesn't lock you into anything in here. And there's $1 million put in there for summer school next year. I don't know if you'll spend $1 million. I don't know that you'll have the same numbers of kids in summer school next year that you had this year. So you committed a number to that. It may or may not be an accurate number too. So it's a plan that can be amended at any time.
Can you speak what it would take in order to really commit to that number, on what the process would be in order for it to be committed?
And it would take a BG1 approval from the board. So it's a process that you all would have. We would present you with a BG1 essentially saying, here's what we would like to do, because anything facility related is under the purview of the board or the school finance court who owns the property. And therefore, nothing can be done within a facility of that magnitude without having that approval process done first. And so a BG1 would be presented, it would go to KDE, KDE would approve it, and would come back and go through the process that all of our construction projects essentially have gone through that process of all those steps. You gotta bid out the process with the contractor, start all those negotiations, but none of that can occur until the board says, yes, let's send a BG1 to KDE for approval.
None of that has occurred.
Right.
Yes,
None of that
correct, none of that
has
has occurred at this
Yeah.
point.
At least you might know how that would differ if it was not facility related to those ESSER funds, as we talked about last week.
Yes, so with federal funding, essentially the board's purview is over taxpayer dollars and facilities. Federal funding is not necessarily under your all's approval, as in the aspect of what every penny is spent on. That is, you are presented with assurances saying that your district administrative team is going to comply to those federal standards and everything that we have to do in order to facilitate these funds. But essentially, the facilitation and how the funds are divvied out is really the directive of the superintendent and administration of the district. Now, obviously, items that then fall under your purview are brought to you regardless of the funding source. Facilities, salaries, that type of stuff.
Did you get
Obviously, next.
stakeholder input
We
on
have-
building the budget?
So that is another question. Who necessarily are the stakeholders? Who necessarily do you deem, as KDE put it, let me see what the wording was, meaningful consultation with stakeholders? Who makes that decision? Who do you determine who those stakeholders are to even include in that conversation? Right now, it's been the superintendent and the administration.
Right. Maybe your budget committee would be a good one.
That could be. So that's still on the table. Again, July 31st is the deadline. We still have another month, and it's been a little crazy around here in case everybody hadn't remembered that part. So, a lot of changing of the guards makes it hard sometimes to have conversations about specific deadlines. So we're still kind of in that process. These are not even available for us to put in GMAP yet, as you all have heard that term GMAP, where the assurances for them has not even come out yet. We're still working on ESSER 2. So ESSER 3 is not completely finalized in a process in any way whatsoever yet. It was asked last month that you all be presented with kind of a tentative plan of how the ESSER grants are going. Well, that's what you were presented with, a tentative
I
plan,
can't find that
essentially.
document in the.
It was part of the district updates that got emailed out, to my
Oh,
understanding.
because I'm in the
It
regular
wasn't like
meeting.
posted on anything.
So it's not in the drive.
It's
No,
not
it's
in the
not in the
drive.
It was in
drive.
an email.
It was however the district
I can't
updates.
I couldn't find it either.
I'm in the regular May meeting, and I'm looking at all the documents, and I went back to the special tentative budget meeting, I can't find it. So it was in an email.
It was presented as part of the district updates.
What
Well, could
was
you
it?
send it to us? Could
Did
Did
send
you
it
get
to
my,
Bob?
did you get my email?
When was that?
The other day, yeah.
Just the
Yes.
other, was it yesterday or day before?
Sunday?
I thought it was
Friday.
last week.
Friday.
Yeah,
We're Monday, aren't we? It's Monday, woo! Friday, I sent an email Friday to all of you with some attachments, and this
Yeah.
was one of the attachments.
And that was one of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
I can go print you copies of that if you want a
Arlene.
copy. All right, Arlene's going
All
over.
right.
And this may be out of your wheelhouse, or it may not be. Have we had any academic plans or programs that we're looking at to fill the gaps
Yeah.
for?
Because I would rather spend money on that than than an energy program until,
And that's-
Or at least better than the minimum.
But I don't know.
Instruction might have to step up and tell you specifically what, but I will tell you things that I know we've purchased out of ESSER too. But
Okay.
as far as how they will facilitate for the instructional side, that is not my wheelhouse. We have purchased Branching Minds and Learning Partners, which are, to my understanding, assessment pieces to help with addressing that learning loss piece. And then we have just recently done a purchase order for Envision's math curriculum.
May 17, CARES funding act plan is in that.
May 17th.
District updates for May.
I've got your email, so.
But as far as other things on the, and again, 3.1 million must be spent on learning loss. And I know the instructional team has more things that we just haven't purchased or put specifically a name on yet for a vision going forward, but they would have to get into more details on that than I can get into it. But, I mean, if obviously a BG would have to be presented to you for the 9 million. If you all say, that's not what we want to spend 9 million on, then we're not going to spend 9 million on that. Regardless of what the long-term effect of the district could be. If that 9 million, it wants to be redirected to one-time salary, which is the next thing on the, agenda item, or if it wants to be directed to curriculum or even additional interventionists or staff or whatever it may be, that is totally options. That's just, that direction can change.
Well, I know the staff and board does not have to be notified of instructional programs purchased
No.
or anything of that nature, but I think it'd be nice to know what we're doing, with updates and things of that nature, so that we know where the ESSER funds are being spent, even though we don't have control over
Right.
that piece.
Right.
It's just more of a partnership of knowing where that money's going.
Well, and just in my head, I'm just, I think $9 million, and I think, okay, $350,000 savings a year, it's gonna take us 25 years. That stuff, what we do now, 25 years, that's gonna be obsolete. That HVAC or whatever, air purification. So I don't know, I mean,
I don't know about that.
well,
We use them probably in 25 years.
I hope so, but,
Fortunately, we don't have any right now in our district. It's more than
That's
25
right.
years. Well, we have some pieces.
We can share a couple things that we're doing if you want us to.
So just
Sure.
say, you have
Yeah,
your
sure.
curriculum ladies in the
Yeah.
back if you want them to.
Yeah, so we're actually looking at purchasing NCTM accounts for all the teachers in the district. The first thing we did is we reached out to admin, we had an admin meeting, and we asked the administrators to get with their teams and then send an email to Mr. Holland, let Mr. Holland know like some of the curricular program needs that each of their building would need. That started with getting everyone an interventionist, so we've at least, I think, solidified one interventionist for everybody, and they're working on more. NCTM accounts will provide resources for mathematics. We're looking to Savas for some science programs. We just received 2 quotes from Savas for K through 8 science and math. Mr. Boland and Mr. Keene, I think, are working on program quotes to get to Mr. Holland. We've not heard back from them or RDC on their specific needs, but I think we've collected from everyone else. So the district has already purchased shared reading for everyone, K through 6. We just finished purchasing the phonics for the schools who didn't have those programs. We're trying to unify phonics from pre-K to 4. We purchased Envisions, like she just said. All teachers will also be getting manipulatives with the Envisions and the RTI programming process for all tiers. And then Lexia and Dreambox, they're also on the list to be approved. We're looking at mystery science also for science, but I think Mr. Holland's waiting to hear back from the rest of the principals before he makes a final decision, so.
Okay, thank you.
I think the 20% threshold to spend is ridiculous. It needs to be a little, it
Yeah.
needs to be more than that.
Okay.
Were
Go
teachers
ahead.
surveyed on what they need, or what they think they need going forward,
So
or?
we had an admin meeting where we asked the principals to get a team together. So they were supposed to put a district or a building level team together. And then we've created a district level team. So the building level team reports to the district level team, and they were supposed to talk to their teachers and let us know. So, and Mr. Holland was supposed to be collecting that data.
But we don't have that,
John?
he hasn't received that
Did
yet,
y'all
or?
I think we're
Have
still
any
waiting to hear from a
input?
couple of schools.
Okay.
Did anybody in this room have any input? Yeah.
I received an email, yes.
Yeah, I was
Of
on
the
that
high
email
school.
too.
Yeah.
I feel like a department head.
Department heads, oh, it's a department head.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's nice to have people in the audience.
Yeah. So we're just waiting to hear back from REC and GRC, I think, before he makes.
Any other discussion on ESSER funds? Any other questions, comments? No?
So that report, it has, what has to be submitted to KDE by
But the July,
A plan.
a plan?
a spending plan to account for the money. Now, it's
The
amendable.
GMAP plan, so how we have to put things in GMAP, that is due, and then we also have to post it on our district website by July 31st, once the plan is put together. But
Okay.
again, we're waiting for input for those meaningful conversations of our stakeholders. We don't have all that gathered yet, we still have another month to put all that
Okay,
together, which then that will drastically change.
right. But I think, so is it going to upload in GMAP with the 9 million placeholder for, I mean, that's my
Probably depends on-
question.
Probably depends on what the findings and the needs are.
Probably not.
From them.
Just curious, I was just,
After this conversation, then obviously, once all the principals submit their reports and we sit down as a cabinet and admin team and look all those over, which obviously we haven't done that yet, that will change the plan. I mean, this was just last month.
Right.
You know, like daily,
Getting things
weekly,
together.
monthly, things change very fastly right now, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Any more questions?
No.
Mhm.
All right, item number 15. Discussion and consideration of a one-time salary payment to staff. You all should have been sent information there too, correct?
Mhm.
Through an email?
Alicia, did you send that out?
Yeah.
Yes, that was in the Friday email, and then I think Mr. Thomas was following up with the.
I'm following. There's a, based upon the discussion that was had with respect to a payment, there is a provision, KDE will not allow bonuses or raises to be done. You can't use bonuses for past work, it has to be for future work. And there are some provisions in KDE that have been used to allow school districts to provide for future one-time salary pay increases that do not go toward the teacher's retirement, do not go toward the teacher's, it's not matched, it doesn't calculate for retirement benefits, but there are a couple of provisions that we have to do, and there's a couple of school districts who have been able to get KDE approval. So if you all said, hey, we would like to entertain that, then we would have to put together a plan. We have to send that to KDE. KDE has to approve whatever action that we're going to take, and then we have to decide what part of the administrative code that we are going to meet. And then KDE has to sign off of that, then it comes back to us, and then we can approve it. Or we can approve it pending KDE. But we have to first find out what you all want to do so that we can send that language to KDE. So there's some very limited circumstances in which that can be done.
So is it asking for a waiver or
Yeah,
an
well,
approval?
So there's two object codes that have been most recently used. Object code 0113, which is the use under the provision says to maintain continuity of services and continued staff employment. So we would have to articulate how this salary payment would maintain or continue services to our students, because that's first and foremost.
Right.
And then how it would continue staff employment. So For instance, if you have teachers, and we all know that teachers do this, if they service students outside of a regular school day, and because of COVID, that, in this particular provision, there was one school district that, their teachers contacted the students virtually after regular hours to address student and parent needs. So we would have to put and say, look, we want to modify object code 113, we want to provide a stipend for the following. And so it could be virtual communications, it could be email communications, it could be providing some type of after-school virtual academy. So we have to spell that out and how it would directly relate to COVID-19 in order for us to use any ESSER fund. The second would be because you also have classified individuals. So if you want to give money to classified, there's another object code 0131, and we would also have to show how those classified personnel would be providing those services. Now, once again, we can't be retroactive. So if we were to do something, it would have to be something
Moving forward.
So what some of these couple of school districts that I found would say like November. You know, you couldn't do it now because teachers are not in school. It has to be for future activities. So we could set forth, here's our plan, here's what we want to do, and this stipend or this one-time pay increase would be made available, October, November, December, or it might be 2 times. It might, they might split it up, so one's in the end of December, or December 18th, and the next one's May 22nd. But you all have to decide how we want to do it, and then we'll present this to KDE. Thelma Hawkins is one of the contact individuals up there who would have to send us a snapshot. It'd have to be uploaded into GMAP and entered into the ESSER budget spending plan, which is that 554.
So could you look at it as an employee retention in order to combat losing staff when we are going to need them more than ever with COVID developed gaps?
And when it's successful is when you pair those two together.
Yes.
We want to continue employment, and because we are asking our staff to do extra,
more.
It's kind of a, you can't kind of have one without the other.
Right.
So yes, you can do that. It's part of continued employment and continuity of services.
Because I do think we're getting ready to see a teacher shortage.
And could that get both classified and certified? I mean, how do you?
So they're different object codes.
Okay.
So you've got
One's certified, one's
So you've got
classified.
object code 0113, which is for your certified, and you've got an object code 0131, which is your classified. So we would have to create, here's our plan for certified, here's our plan for classified, kind of spell that out, this is what we're wanting to do, and then once we spell it out, we would get approval from KDE, and then you all would determine what is that amount, I've seen ranges from 500, there was one 500, I think one 1,500. So it's like a $750 payment in November, another $750 payment in May.
And do you remember what district?
I do not. They're down in the middle parts of the state, kind of southeastern.
Alicia, didn't you send us 2 different payment amounts at one time in an email?
I was asked to quote.
Did you just quote them?
Yeah, I
Okay.
quoted with that.
I thought I had them in an email and I can't. Okay, that explains why I can't find them.
I'm trying to find it too.
Whatever payment it would be, while it wouldn't go to the teacher's retirement, it would be taxed from you all, from this board as, any matching that would otherwise be had if it would count toward our workers. It would count toward our workers' comp.
Yes, so federal funds, the retirement rate is higher on the certified side than it is on the general fund, so we have to pay that higher matching amount. I did reach out to TRS, Teachers Retirement, and if we are strategic in how we word what we're doing, it will count towards the retirement. Basically, it's kind of like you're doing a one-time salary increase in lieu of a percentage increase to bring, so you're not raising your salary tables, but it's really kind of like a pay raise as a
One
percentage,
time.
but you're doing it in a one-time lump sum. So if it's facilitated in that manner, it would count towards their contract pay, meaning they would get it counted towards their retirement. If it's a teacher that would retire within the time frame, this would be on that year of wages.
What about CERs?
On the CERS, or your classified side, the only thing they specified that if you want it to count towards the person's retirement, it has to be at least $1,000 or more. If it's under 1,000, it basically will count in only that specific year, which will cause something they call pension spiking and will not count towards the retirement. But if you do the 1,000 or more, it basically gets spread out over all of their years of services, which then would count towards their retirement. So that would be my only suggestion, is at least make it 1,000 or more.
Right.
So that it compensates to both sides of our staff, and that we do it, it's basically, it is a salary increase for next year in lieu of giving a percentage increase. So you really are raising people's contract salaries for our next fiscal year in a lump sum fashion versus a percentage increase. And I will tell you, just kind of like 2% got thrown out there, and what 2% facilitated to all of our staff looks like. If you look at the lowest paid certified person to the highest paid certified person, you're looking at like a $1,300 increase for 2% versus like a $2,500 increase. That's the range. So everybody would get a little something different based on where they fall on the salary table. On your classified side, you're looking at $250 to your lowest paid person to $2,000 to your highest paid person. So, I mean, that's a huge range on your classified side, and even kind of a gap even on your certified. So the lump sum is giving everybody the same amount of pay increase versus the percentage raise. Yes, it seems equal, but when you look at the high to low end, it's kind of, there's a big gap there. So, I mean, just for your information. An amount that was thrown out was $3,000. If we did a $3,000 bonus to everyone, one-time payment.
Salary increase.
Not the word bonus, but if we do that one-time payment to them, it's like $3 million. Once you put the benefits side onto it for us, and what we have to actually pay out of the grant funding. So, I mean, that's roughly what it facilitates to our number of staff and all the benefits added onto it.
So it was at 3,000 across the board.
3,000 across the board is essentially about $3 million.
Yeah, it was just a little less than 30 something.
Yeah, it was like
That
$2
one, something,
something.
So who would be writing the plan up to submit to KDE? You, okay.
Most likely.
I mean, if you'll tell us what you want, I'll Alicia write it so that we can submit it to get it approved.
Okay.
Because we have some sample language that we potentially modify.
Okay. That someone has shared with you that received
Yes.
approval? Because it helps if it's already received approval.
Correct.
If you look on Facebook, the Teachers in the Know,
Yeah.
there's a list going on there. I started to send it to all of y'all. There's a list of some very creative ways that other districts are doing. And
See, I keep thinking that retention, oh, and you know, each year maybe. I don't know. I guess it's all in how you write it up. Right? Nothing though that you've seen to an amount of 3,000.
I have not, no. Because a lot of people don't.
Two, you saw 2,000? Okay. Some twos. And it was a one-time across the board for everyone,
There was
Mr. Christie?
one time across the board, there was some other very creative things that they were doing that I don't know how they're going to get approved.
Okay.
It's on the Facebook account, Teachers in the Know.
Teachers in the Know.
They was asking each county.
What they were doing?
What they were doing, and I had a list, they were compiling a list, and I was having a list sent to me, and I started to send it to you, and I haven't gotten it from them yet, a completely
Okay.
compiled list. They were calling out districts also in that article that were doing nothing.
Right. We don't want to be on that list. Right?
No.
So, what are you thinking?
I think we need to kind of move forward with that. I mean, I think Brian and Alicia can get together and start putting something together and, because I don't think it's something that's going to get approved tonight. And probably not in July, because it's going to take some time to get approval from the department, and we want to get it, we want it, our wording to be correct and see how creative we can be.
But they can work on that. I mean,
Yeah.
we can approve, I mean, we have the opportunity to approve an amount
The amount.
tonight and move in the right direction, and they can work
And you
on
can
it.
say this is the number that we're looking at.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
can submit.
but what if it's too much? I mean,
Well, I guess Katie will say it's too much.
okay.
But I would doubt that they're gonna say that if we have, we've got the ESSER, we've got some ESSER funds.
Federal money is coming out of it.
Huh?
It's federal money.
It's federal money.
I'm not gonna say anything about it.
Well, they might. They might say something about it. I would say 3.
Yeah, I was leaning towards 3 as well, but in 2 payments. Just have money like during Christmas time and, you know, like a little one-time salary increase there in the November timeframe.
Can you do 2 payments?
You said as long as they were over 1,000 that could contribute towards their retirement, correct?
Right, as long as the overall payment.
The overall
year-
payment.
Yeah,
So if you
So if you
said-
did,
facilitated into payments. and
Right.
yes.
so even if you did like the minimum, the 1,500, that would be 750 and 750, but it's still over the 1,000.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at it as, by the time you pay taxes out and everything, everyone will still get a little over $1,000 as a one-time increase. I mean, 750 is a lot too, and, you know, but at least, you know, you take the taxes out, you're probably looking at $500.
Taxes and
I'm sorry?
Mhm.
Taxes
And retirement.
Yeah.
So just for your information, Clark is on the list of doing that.
Okay, I figured. Well, we're
Because
having
we
a meeting.
haven't yet,
Yeah. Let's do,
At this time.
at this time, that's right.
I mean, the thing is, we have money for one-times, right? I'm not, and it's not even on the agenda for reoccurring
Right.
increases, okay? But I'm in favor of the one-time. Of,
So you want to split it up? You
I-
want to do a,
I mean, I think we've done that in the past, haven't we? That's before I was on the board.
because that really goes to the retention part, Brenda. I mean, if you were to do something like in
Do the,
November and then maybe
Because
March.
the earliest that she could get it out anyway would be August 30th.
Right.
Oh,
the
if that gets
multi-year
approved.
status
Yeah,
is
that's if it
August
gets approved.
30th. Yeah. it has to
I
be
doubt if
approved.
you, I mean, that would be, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think that would really be pushing it.
It's hard to turn around with the very first payroll of the season, which is already a bit chaotic, and making sure you have all your new hires on the payroll to get their first paycheck. To add another payroll to my girls would be a little hectic, which has been, June has been very hectic for them already with all the summer school stuff.
Well, plus you might be hiring new people that time anyway,
Yeah.
and this would be a great incentive to offer new hires too, I would think.
I would recommend the November 30th payroll.
November
So that
30th, yeah.
It hits, you know, and then they have that money before December comes to be able to do their Christmas shopping and that sort of thing. Whether it's one payment or half and half, we could do the second payment in May or something like that. Also to the end of the school year or soon, just whatever the board would direct. But I would suggest the first payment at least not on November 30th.
So 1,500 in November and then 1,500 in March.
I think you said May, or,
I would do
It could be
it in March.
Or
But
March.
when is spring break?
March,
I would do it in March.
the last
We're
week
done
of
with
March,
spring break.
28th through the 1st.
The pay period before spring break or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'd say let them
Enjoy it.
spring break, yeah.
Hope you don't have a lot of snow days, just make it during spring break. When you incentivize
Right, your cash don't
spring
snow days too
vacation in
much.
Florida for every teacher in the district.
oh, I think
We did
splitting
get
it up,
approved
it
on
keeps the
the NPI.
retention there, you know, to get it, you have to stay, you know, I know it's some people may stay, but, you know, $1,500, if you wanna leave, you know, they're probably gonna leave, but I think it gives some incentive, and know it's coming, and it's been approved.
Part of the other consideration, just to think about it, because obviously if you did the percent raise and increased your salary tables, that's facilitated on a contractual basis of if they started late with us, they only get it for the number of days they work with us. So would you prorate this one time? Or would you just say, here it is, period? Or, and also you have substitutes. So like the pool of who's going to get it, everyone, a certain group, are we gonna prorate it for contracts?
So the 3 million that you based that off of, who was that?
Everybody,
Subs included?
yes. So that's part of it, you know, you could have a sub who works one day.
Yeah, what if you
Yeah,
have a
I-
sub that's
all
just,
year.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then they get $3,000.
yeah, I don't know that
Other districts, I was really, I only have one district I've talked to, which I don't wanna necessarily throw their name out. They just said flat, we gave it to them, we didn't care, it was just, here you go, just give them one payment.
I just
Because
don't think
I
that's fair.
went back and, well, what about this and what about that, and, because that's how my brain as the finance person thinks of, you know, the ones who have worked their entire contract get the same amount that someone who worked one day. I don't think that that necessarily is, the best way to handle that.
No.
So,
It's more work on
I
finance
mean, it's
part.
more work on us to prorate that and figure that out of what we owe people. Or if someone starts the year and gets the half, but then they leave at Christmas and never come back, they're not gonna get the other half because they've already left their employment. I mean, if you split it up like that, but if you gave it in one whole, they got the whole amount and they left in December. So I mean, those are just
Right.
things to think about from a financial standpoint. That's, you know, what you all pay me to do is to think about those things. So, I'm just trying to throw out what those different options could look like. I think the fairness side of it is to prorate that based on what they work. If they start late or leave us early, then they would get a portion of that, just like they would get the portion if it was a percent raise to the salary table. They're only getting the part they're working for.
I agree, I think it needs to be prorated, just to be fair.
Yeah.
Because you have substitutes that probably work almost full-time.
Yes, we do have some subs that work full-time. So, I mean, they would deserve, in my opinion, that whole amount, because they really are kind of working at full-time.
Right.
But then you have some who are active on our payroll that just popcorn work as we need them, and, you know, by the end of the year could have worked maybe 2 weeks of the year. I mean, or one day. I mean, we had some people, they got paid for one day for the whole year. That's all they got called into work. I mean, it just depends on how that schedule of how we need subs. But obviously, you don't want to leave those folks out either, because they are working and they have been here. And we actually, you know, during the whole pandemic, we relied on our subs. So, I mean, it's not a group you want to leave out, but it's also, how do you facilitate that?
I think it would be irresponsible not to prorate it.
So 3,000 total
Yeah,
here.
I'll take the motion. Make a motion to approve a one-time salary payment of $3,000 across the board for classified and certified with prorated, that'd be prorated for substitutes.
And then would you want it to be paid out though?
And be in two different, in the November and March timeframe.
So
Paid
can I
out
just
in March.
clarify, do you want to prorate only subs, or do you just want to prorate even people who come in late or leave early?
I think
No, it's
all across the board.
All, yeah.
Because what we're really wanting to accomplish is, I want to honor the people that come here and stay here, you know? And it's really hard to do when you do across the board like that, but it comes across as being more fair. But, you know, I'd like to think about, you know, and I threw this out, number of years in the district. And if you've been here this many years, you get this much and this much and this much. But I don't know. I mean, to me, that's all about retention and keeping good people here.
But it couldn't be COVID
But
related.
then how do you draw that to be COVID related? Because the argument on the other side that some of the what I found is that, you know, you have a teacher who's worked here 1 year and you have a teacher who's worked here 20 years, and they both say, look, we were both here every day for this COVID deal. We were teaching our kids. We were, you know, I was exposed to this, and when we went back, I was exposed to the same one. How come the person that's got 20 years gets more money than me when I was exposed to the same risk?
Right.
Was one of the arguments that was.
And
But I don't think of it as exposure, I think of it as, in my mind, the way I see it, and probably it's not correct, but if my child has a gap, I want them being taught by somebody who has lots of experience. That's how I see it. So therefore, you know, and there's nothing wrong, hey, I was a first-year teacher, you know, but that's how you could possibly sell it, but I see what you're saying. To make it COVID-related, it has to be, everybody is subjected to a pandemic, and in order to keep teaching going and all of that, that's.
Because the other, and one of the arguments was that, okay, well, that first year teacher is not gonna get it. They may not be as committed to trying to make up that gap. You know, oh, I'm only getting, you know.
Well, no, I don't think you rule anybody out.
Yes.
I think everybody would get a bonus, but it might be more on your years, but.
Yeah, and I guess I'm looking at it, it's more, if it was coming out of like our budget, just regular
Yes.
budget, that, I'd be more inclined to do
That.
that. But since it's coming out of ESSER,
Yeah.
I'm more inclined to just go across the board, because everyone's been
Well, what
through it,
we
everyone's
could
been through
do,
it.
I'm glad you said that. We could do the out of ESSER budget across the board, and then later we could look at our budget,
See what it is, yeah.
because who knows, maybe we'll be,
That could be a future discussion
Yeah.
of doing one-time salary bumps in that aspect
Versus
versus
a
percentage
2%
tables that you
or-
lock yourself into for
Right.
every year.
Right.
Depending on the health of your budget. I mean, those could be options for
Right.
future pay raises.
because I do think that a percent, there's no way we can do a percentage with ESSER. We know that. It's not sustainable. It is a one-time award, and you don't tie up, you know, reoccurring expenses. We cannot do that, so.
I gotta stop you, Brenda, I forgot, Bill just made a motion, there's a motion on the floor.
Oh, the discussion's over.
Well, you can discuss, but I have to see this motion's getting, until Arlene said something down there, I was like,
We
okay,
need a
you did make
second.
motion.
I make a
Yes.
I
Thank you,
second.
Arlene.
How about that?
Okay,
But we can
so
still discuss it.
after it's second,
Yeah,
Yes.
so,
We were
okay.
discussing it. I second.
Okay,
Okay.
so now you can continue.
Okay.
I just had to get it taken care of real quick.
My mind gets going. It's
And-
always moving on.
and I hate to bring it up, you know, because of taxes, right? Taxes, discussions, what, November, October, November?
No, August.
August.
Oh, sooner than I thought. Okay, so, sooner than I thought. Right. So I think that we'd have more of a idea of any sort of additional increase after that tax discussion.
Yes.
Okay, so, Brenda, are you done?
I'm good. Conversation will continue.
Sorry.
No, I meant conversation will
You
continue.
must have me
in
on
the-
protocol.
No,
Trying to go here.
No, you're good. I meant that this isn't the end of our conversation.
Right.
How about that?
Okay. So, motion by Mr. Talby, second by Ms. Considine. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, 15A, discussion of additional survey through KASO. Which this is, do you want to go, you want me to go, or? I mean, we kind of went back and forth on this, and I think you have as well, or somebody did. When we were doing this,
It didn't get out.
no, it didn't get out, we didn't even know,
How it got out, or
No.
who got what?
no.
Well, we just like to see more people in the
Interactive.
district to actually
Participate. There was very
participate,
few
yep.
teachers,
Community.
administrators,
Mhm.
any of that participated. And so we thought maybe we needed a second round.
I agree, I think we need to do a one call too and let everybody
Yes.
know. I don't think that was done. And let them know where they can, you know, provide input.
Right,
And on our social media.
yes.
And the
Because
Winchester
they can-
Sun does something on social media where that it's like a sponsored post.
Yes.
Like,
Uh-huh.
I think we need to just we need to see if they can do that, how we go about that.
So we
You can
kind of
see
wanted to
it had
get
a
with
QR
Kathy
code
and
on
see.
the Winchester Sun's newspaper.
No, we need to put that out there, social media.
Yeah.
There was a QR code?
There was a QR code.
Yes, that's how you, yeah.
Yeah. And possibly put, make it more centered around Clark County,
You would like to revise the survey?
not just me.
No, I mean, sorry.
Help me out, Sherry.
I think we could get more interaction if it were more Clark specific.
Yeah.
Well, like, how important is it, do you think, that your superintendent lives here? Or
Yeah.
how important, what were some other things we were tossing around? Just some more pointed questions.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go into the details of the questions, but I think we need to, talk to Kathy about it and say, this is what we need to do, and tell her what we want,
Right.
And then put it back out.
and put it back out, because it's coming up real quick.
Yeah.
So,
We need to
Yeah.
do that ASAP.
ASAP.
okay, so I will reach out to her and see how she wants to address
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
She may want to do it in maybe a virtual kind of thing, maybe she wants to just do a virtual meeting with us.
That'd be fine.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
probably need to just, any questions that we need to change, we probably need to just go ahead and jot down.
Yeah, 'cause
like
she
on our
sent
own.
us-
Because she sent us the survey, and maybe just all send an email to her, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I will reach, because I had tried to get hold of her earlier today and just things were going, I just didn't get her and.
Yeah.
But I think the main part, whether the questions are changed or not, is we need to, really
Put it out.
put it out there and make sure it's out there.
Yeah. Okay. So then
Do you need a motion on that, or
Well,
how do we handle
we
that?
just have discussion, I think we just kind of wanted to make sure
Discussion,
everybody's in
everybody's,
agreement
Okay.
that, we probably go back and do it again. Okay, so then we had item number 16 brought back up to discuss, So Paul,
Acknowledge, we just acknowledge.
we're on, we're on acknowledge superintendent's update in district.
I sent those to you. There wasn't a lot of other stuff because summer school going on, but I did have each school send to us for me to send to you their plans for the second summer session when they're going to have their open houses, so you have those dates and all those things for every school and every event that they've got scheduled over the summer.
Do we know if Ready Fest has been scheduled?
There was some conversation about that, and I know it sounds like Ready Fest is they're going to take it back to each school individually do it.
No, it's a shame.
Something like that.
Oh.
I thought moving Ready Fest from the way we did it years ago and going to BCTC, wanted it understood then that that was a school function that's put on and done by the school for our kids.
Right.
And when we went to BCTC, it got away from us. And now BCTC is not going to be able to do it. And now the schools are going to do it, and each of them do their own. Now you get into a competition of who can do more, who can do what, and it's not, I don't think, but I'm offering input on something I'm not going to be here for.
But what?
If I were, I would not have it that way.
The BCTC say why they
I
can't do
heard
it?
today that they're not doing it for some reason or another, that's not going to be there. And I don't know the reasoning.
Yeah.
I just got wind of it today. It doesn't sound like it's planned at BCTC. I didn't like the way it was going. It was turned into a money-making
Competition.
thing for the people selling goods there. And that's not what we started this for.
Well, couldn't we do it at the high school?
Didn't it used to be at College Park?
It used to be a college park.
Did you like it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's centrally
50% of people
located.
It's
that
centrally,
needed
yeah.
help, most help could walk.
Could
there.
walk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They could not get to BCTC.
And that's my problem with going to BCTC. Nothing to BCTC, they've got a great venue for
Right.
it, sidewalk and
Yeah.
stuff. They got a nice venue for it, but it took away, and traffic became a problem, transportation became a problem, and they did a good job working with that. Now, I don't know exactly why the conversation is that it's not going to be there this time, or they're talking about not doing it, but I just got wind today that it may be going back to each individual school, and I just personally don't think that's a good idea.
Well,
I think they're trying to boost the camaraderie of the school since they've been out so long, even though 75% of our kids came back since March the 3rd grade. They're trying to boost that home feel of the school. from what I
understand
understand
that.
after talking.
I also understand when it goes to the level of the schools, and you all know as well as I do, each school takes them to different levels, and it becomes,
Competition.
somebody loses in competitions.
Mhm.
And that's, in this case, it's gonna be kids, loses in the competition. That's
Well, and
the
when it
entire
was,
person's opinion.
when it was there, we never really asked if they were a student, did we?
No.
No, when I saw that getting out of hand at ECTC, I know for a fact students from other counties, it's kind of like we made the likeness to trick or treat, where they schedule on different nights in all the
Yeah.
different communities, so you can go from community to community. That's what a lot of people were doing. And I saw a lot of stuff going to kids in other districts, which is fine, if people need it. Just to help other kids too, but we got kids in Clark County.
Yeah.
Well, just a reminder, we got a platform now that we can use out the high school.
We got a
if we
great
wanted
venue
to.
at the high school out there.
If, say, College Park
You
didn't.
got the new park, Legacy, that's another one that's a bit.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, forgot about
Legacy
that.
Grove would be.
There's options.
Mr. Christie, would you like an update on that for next time?
They might. I don't think why.
Would you like an update on that?
You can mail it to me.
For next month, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
If you would like an update,
Yes.
I'll be glad to.
Okay, yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, so with that being said, I need or we're on consent agenda.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything anybody wants to pull off?
So, I just want to ask the question, number 28, consider approval of BG4 forms for all listed contractors associated. What is that?
That's the completion of the project forms. You have to file BG4 before we can complete the project. All the contractors have to file. We have to have a BG4 on file.
Okay.
But it's each of the contractors will have to file that.
So does that mean we're closing that project out?
We're working towards closing it out.
Okay.
Now, and when those who still have work to be completed, or if there's any punch list items, they'll hold the BG4 for that particular company, but the other can move forward closing out.
Okay.
You got how many contractors? I mean, we have one.
There were several, but that's just the construction
Yeah.
side of it that Codell is managing, BG4s. I still have to, after this, complete a BG5.
Yeah.
But this has to be approved in the system before I can even start the BG5 to officially close the project out, which would then be brought before you all, before it's actually closed out. So there's still a few more steps. This is just to consider.
Did we ask for a list a few months ago when people were getting paid, like for this kind of stuff, to have a list of who all was getting a check, or am I dreaming that?
We did if somebody was actually getting paid.
Okay.
I think there was a pay application on 27.
Couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, some smaller ones.
Could we pull those out together?
Whatever you want for.
You have today, right? They're not pay applications on today.
Yeah, there's several.
You can pull those if you want to. Pull those out if you want.
24, 25,
So just out there.
26,
Pull those.
and 28.
27.
You have 23, 24. Did you change your,
So what numbers?
23,
I don't know if you want to pull
24.
25 out, that's a credit to you. I don't know if
Yeah,
you're requesting that
no.
too much or not.
23, 24, 26.
26, 27. So, yeah.
these wasn't always consent items, were they?
I
No.
don't think so.
Could we pull them out and do them when we authorize payments for some of those
They've been
accounts
consent
payable?
items for some time.
I think it had to be a different line item.
We'll have this point. got to this point.
Okay.
I don't think we can include all these with,
With insurance.
line 39.
No, they have to probably be lumped together. I'm just saying, we could
Put it under,
approve what?
You can do your consent and then put this underneath that, can't you, Brian?
Can you pull it out?
Is that what you're wanting to do, or you
Yeah.
want me to, okay. So, yeah, we can do the rest,
Yes.
and then, so, you can approve items 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
Yeah.
28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Y'all just check me out.
you
We
want
are.
to,
You wanna
we
do
want
20
to approve 25 too, right?
25, because it's
Including the consent, because that's
a
credit.
credit.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so 25,
Yes.
36, 37, and 38.
Yes.
Does anybody want to make that?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Conklin,
I'll second.
Did you get those, Arlene? Thank you.
second by Mr. Tolley. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Okay, so now we have items 23, 24, 26, and 27 that we are, been pulled out.
Mhm.
Okay, so, do you all want to discuss those line by line, or how do you all want to go about this?
Yeah.
All right, so item number 23. Consider approval of pay application 1525-01 to Ross Torrent Architects for the Clark County Preschool Center project.
And that's our current work, right?
Mhm.
Right.
For preschool.
Programming,
Yes.
that's the
Okay.
programming. They've already been meeting with individual groups of teachers, administrators, probably pulled, I'm not sure, but probably should have pulled parents in to talk to.
Right.
It's just programming.
Programming. Okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward.
I make a motion
Okay.
to approve
Item number 23.
item number 23.
All right, item number 23.
I will second.
Motion by Ms. Considine, second by Ms. Hendricks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Item number 24, consider approval of pay application 2031-07 to Ross Torrent Architects for the Clark County Board of Education roof replacement.
That's, so they're taking part in the approvals of the roof replacement.
Is it finished?
I think it's completely done. I don't
Okay.
think we've even got anything outstanding on that.
Okay.
I'm certain that the architects, and that would include their having done their walkthroughs at the end and
Right.
bunch of those type things. too.
Okay.
There has to be a stamp of approval of architects on even the roof replacement. or
Right.
anything.
Make a motion to approve aisle 24.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Tolby, second by Ms. Considine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Item number 26, consider approval of pay application number 27 to Codell Construction Suppliers and Contractors of the George Rogers Clark High School Fieldhouse and Athletic Fields Project BG 18-334 for $19,080.77.
So this
Is this-
is ASI,
Wait, what did you say?
What'd you say?
invoice from ASI. If you scroll down, it gives you some invoices.
Hold on. 20.
And then there's a geotechnology invoice on here too, of 6,200.
There's a geotechnical invoice as part of that in there.
Yeah, geotech, and you've got ASI for $555. You've got ASI in here for 3648.
ASI for
And Codell,
555,
and Codell,
Codell.
looks like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're, last week probably, they're almost paid out on it.
It's the final on the geotech.
Okay.
And Codell's portion of that too.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve item 26.
Motion by Mr. Tolby,
I second.
second by Ms. Constantine. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 27, consider approval of pay application number 38 to Codell Construction Suppliers and Contractors for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium and Athletic Fields. BG 16-238 in the amount of $3,000.
So it's CH Commissioning?
It's
LLC.
commissioning, they have to guarantee that pieces of equipment are working, functioning as the specs state, and they do the commissioning of it.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what pieces of equipment it's,
It is.
for the above reference.
But they check all of it, so we shouldn't expect another one from them at all. It says final.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I make a motion.
That's probably what was being held, the 10% of the total contract that's being held, and they've completed everything, so now they're probably paying them out now.
The
whole-
final payout.
Final payment.
Motion
And even
by,
3,000, it looks like it's probably.
Yeah, it's a
been
pretty
held
even
probably
number.
Until they complete everything else, and once they complete everything, they get the percent that's being held.
My second.
Okay.
all right, second by Mr. Tolby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, now we're back to item number 39. Authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Richardson. And I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Need a motion to adjourn.
Did you second that?
No, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Ms. Hendricks,
My second.
second by Mr. Tolby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.